heart of Lagos, Nigeria, where skyscrapers kissed the clouds and the Atlantic breeze carried whispers of ambition, James Hartley lived a life most could only dream of. At 38, he was the CEO of Apex Innovations, a tech empire that powered half the city's digital infrastructure. His mansion in Ikoyi, a sprawling fortress of glass and marble, was a testament to his success. Ferraris lined his garage, and his wife, Vanessa, was the envy of every socialite in the city. But fate, as it often does, had other plans. One stormy night, while driving back from a high-stakes meeting in Victoria Island, James's car hydroplaned on a slick road. The crash was catastrophic. He awoke in a sterile hospital room, the doctor's words, cutting deeper than any blade. "You're paralyzed from the waist down." Vanessa, with her perfectly styled hair and tear-streaked makeup, held his hand and sobbed. "We'll get through this, darling," she promised. But promises, James would soon learn, were as fragile as glass. Weeks turned into months, and Vanessa's warmth faded. The woman who once hung on his every word now spent her nights at exclusive clubs, her social media filled with glamorous photos. "I didn't marry a cripple, James," she snapped one evening when he pleaded for her to stay home. "I need to live my life." Desperate to keep her, James agreed to hire a live-in maid to handle the household and his care. That decision would change everything. Samuel Carter, a 23-year-old orphan, stood nervously at the towering gates of the Hartley mansion. His worn backpack hung loosely over one shoulder, his shoes scuffed from years of walking Lagos's unforgiving streets. Samuel had grown up in the shadow of hardship, losing his parents to a car accident at age 6. Shuffled between foster homes, he endured neglect and abuse, his only solace a tattered Bible he carried everywhere. Despite his past, Samuel clung to a stubborn hope that life could be kind. The job ad for a live-in maid had been a lifeline. Samuel didn't care that he knew little about the billionaire who lived here. What mattered was the promise of a roof, food, and a chance to breathe. The gates creaked open, and a stern security guard eyed him. "You're the maid?" he asked, skepticism dripping from his voice. "Yes, sir. My name is Samuel," he replied, his voice steady despite his racing heart. The guard led him through a courtyard that looked like something out of a Hollywood film. A shimmering fountain stood at its center, flanked by sleek cars that gleamed under the Lagos sun. Inside, the mansion was a cathedral of luxury, marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and air that smelled of money. But beneath the opulence, Samuel sensed a hollowness, like a beautiful shell with no life inside. They stopped outside a heavy oak door. "Don't speak unless spoken to," the guard warned. "Mr. Hartley doesn't like noise." Samuel nodded, his palms sweaty. The door opened, revealing James Hartley in a wheelchair, his face gaunt but commanding. His eyes, though tired, held a spark of the man who had built an empire. "Good afternoon, sir," Samuel said, bowing slightly. James studied him. "You're not a nurse?" "No, sir. I'm here to clean, cook, and help where I can." James's lips twitched, almost a smile. "You're not afraid of me?" Samuel met his gaze. "No, sir. I've seen worse than a man in a chair." For the first time in months, James laughed, a small, rusty sound. "You'll stay in the back quarters. Meals on time, house spotless. And stay out of trouble." "Yes, sir," Samuel said, catching the flicker of pain in James's voice when he mentioned his wife. Something was wrong in this house, and Samuel felt it in his bones. Samuel settled into his small room behind the mansion, a simple space with a bed, a fan, and a window overlooking the garden. It was more than he'd ever had. That evening, as he prepared dinner in the state-of-the-art kitchen, he caught sight of Vanessa lounging in the living room. Her designer dress hugged her curves, and her manicured nails tapped impatiently on her phone. She glanced up, her eyes narrowing as they landed on Samuel. "You're the new help?" she asked, her tone sharp enough to cut glass. "Yes, ma'am," Samuel replied, keeping his voice neutral. Vanessa stood, her heels clicking on the marble. "Clean my bedroom twice a day. If I find a speck of dust, you're gone. And don't get any ideas about my husband. I know how boys like you think." Samuel blinked, stung by the accusation. "I'm here to work, ma'am." She scoffed and stormed out, leaving a cloud of expensive perfume and disdain. Samuel shook his head and focused on the meal, a simple jollof rice with grilled chicken, seasoned with care. When he brought the tray to James's room, he offered a tentative smile. "I hope it's to your liking, sir." James took a bite, paused, and looked at him. "This is good, really good." Samuel's chest warmed. "Thank you, sir." "What's your name again?" "Samuel, sir." James nodded. "You have kind eyes, Samuel." "And you have a heavy heart, sir," Samuel replied softly, surprising himself. James stared, then chuckled. "No one's ever said that to me before." That night, Samuel knelt by his bed, his Bible open. "Lord, I don't know why I'm here, but please use me to bring light to this house." Days passed, and Samuel fell into a routine. He cleaned tirelessly, cooked hearty meals, and assisted James with small tasks. Vanessa's absences grew bolder. She often returned at dawn, her makeup smudged, her laughter loud and hollow. One morning, as Samuel swept the hallway, she stumbled in, clutching silver stilettos. Her dress wrinkled from a night of revelry. "What are you looking at?" she snapped, catching his gaze. "Good morning, ma'am," Samuel said, bowing to avoid her wrath. She hissed and disappeared upstairs. Samuel's stomach twisted. The madam of the house was unraveling, and James, confined to his room, seemed to carry the weight of her betrayal. Later, James called Samuel to his room. "You start early," he remarked, watching Samuel adjust his pillows. "Always have, sir." "Keeps me ahead of the day." James smiled faintly. "Want to try something new? Wheel me to the balcony. I need air." Samuel hesitated, then nodded. He helped James into a jacket and pushed him to the balcony, overlooking Lagos's glittering skyline. The ocean breeze was cool, the city alive with distant horns and lights. James closed his eyes, breathing deeply. "I forgot what freedom feels like." "You've been locked inside too long, sir," Samuel said. "Even a bird needs to spread its wings." They talked for hours about music, Lagos's chaos and dreams buried under pain. Samuel shared how he taught himself to read from old newspapers, how he longed to study engineering. James listened, his eyes softening. For the first time he felt seen, not as a broken man, but as James. Their moment shattered when Vanessa's voice cut through the air. "What is this?" She stood at the balcony door, arms crossed, her eyes blazing. "Just getting some air, ma'am," Samuel said, standing quickly. Vanessa turned to James. "You didn't tell me you were coming out here. I don't need your permission to breathe." "Vanessa," James said, his voice sharp. She glared at Samuel. "Back inside, now." Samuel wheeled James in, his heart heavy. That night, he overheard Vanessa and James arguing. "Where were you last night?" James demanded. "Out!" Vanessa spat. "I'm not your prisoner." "You're my wife." "A wife to a man who can't even stand," she mocked. "I'm not your nursemaid, James." Samuel retreated to his room, his chest tight. Vanessa's cruelty was a poison, and James was drowning in it. The next day, Vanessa handed Samuel a silk dress. "Take this to the dry cleaners. Be quick." Samuel nodded and left, stopping at a pharmacy in Ikeja to buy bandages for a cut on his finger. While waiting, he overheard two women gossiping. "Vanessa Hartley was at that club in Lekki again," one said. "With that guy, Marcus, the one with the scar on his cheek. Her husband's in a wheelchair and she's out dancing?" the other replied. No shame, Samuel's heart sank. Back at the mansion, he served James lunch, noticing his untouched plate. "Not hungry, sir?" James shook his head. "Lost my appetite." Samuel hesitated, then spoke. "Sir, you're more than this chair. You built an empire. That strength is still in you." James looked at him, a flicker of hope in his eyes. "You believe that?" "I know it," Samuel said firmly. That night, James lay awake, Samuel's words echoing. He wasn't done yet. He was still James Hartley, and he would fight. A week later, the mansion felt like a pressure cooker. Samuel noticed Vanessa's behavior shift. She was sweeter, almost too sweet. One evening, she called him to the living room, her smile disarming. "Samuel, do you dream of university?" "Yes, ma'am," he said cautiously. "What if I sent you to Canada to study? A fresh start." Samuel's eyes widened. "Why would you do that, ma'am?" Vanessa's smile tightened. She pulled a small vial from her purse and placed it in his hand. "Put this in James's tea. It'll help him sleep better. Samuel stared at the clear liquid, his throat dry. Why not give it to him yourself? Vanessa's eyes flashed. Don't question me, boy. Do it, or you'll regret it. Samuel's hands shook. I can't, ma'am. She stepped closer, her voice a hiss. Refuse and you'll disappear. Tell James and you're done. Samuel stumbled to his room, the vial burning in his pocket. He hid it in a sock, his mind racing. He couldn't betray James, but Vanessa's threat was real. He prayed for guidance, the weight of the choice crushing him. The next morning, Samuel wheeled James to the garden, his heart pounding. Sir, I need to tell you something. James sensed his fear. What's wrong, Samuel? Samuel took a deep breath and handed him the vial, wrapped in a cloth. Vanessa gave me this. Said to put it in your tea. She threatened me if I didn't. James's face hardened. He opened the vial, sniffing it carefully. Thank you, Samuel. You did the right thing. He sent the vial to a private lab through his trusted assistant, Princess. That evening, the results came back. The liquid was a slow-acting neurotoxin, designed to mimic a natural decline. James's blood ran cold. Vanessa wasn't just unfaithful, she was a murderer. He called his lawyer and a private investigator, his voice steady. Prepare divorce papers, and find out everything about a man named Marcus. The next day, Vanessa strutted through the mansion, unaware of the storm brewing. At 5:00 p.m., the doorbell rang. Samuel watched from the kitchen as James's lawyer and investigator entered, carrying folders thick with evidence. Vanessa descended the stairs, her smile faltering. What's this? Sit, James said, his voice like steel. The investigator laid out photos. Vanessa with Marcus at clubs, hotels, even a secret apartment in Banana Island. Then came the lab report. This is the poison you told Samuel to put in your husband's tea. The investigator said. Vanessa's face drained of color. Lies, that boy set me up. James raised a hand. Enough! I gave you everything, Vanessa. You chose betrayal. You tried to kill me. She fell to her knees, sobbing. I was scared, James. I didn't mean it. The lawyer slid divorce papers across the table. You have 24 hours to leave. Vanessa's sobs turned to screams as she stormed out, vowing revenge. That night, Samuel cleaned the kitchen, unease gnawing at him. He heard a faint rustle outside and froze. Peering through the window, he saw shadows moving near the gate. His heart raced as he ran to James's room. Sir, someone's outside. James opened his CCTV app, revealing 3 masked men scaling the wall, knives glinting. He hit the alarm, and within minutes, security guards swarmed the property. The intruders were caught, one confessing, Marcus hired us. Said to take out the man in the wheelchair and the maid. James's jaw tightened. Get me Marcus's address. In a Lagos courtroom, Vanessa and Marcus sat in handcuffs, their glamour replaced by shame. The judge sentenced them to 15 years, each for attempted murder and conspiracy. Vanessa's wails echoed as she was led away. Her empire of lies crumbled. Princess, who had always been friends with James, often came around to check on him. They would walk around James's garden, and James, now stronger, would wheel himself out. Princess, he said, I have something to tell you. Princess turned slowly, curiosity flickering in her eyes. James, his hands trembling slightly, reached into his coat and pulled out a ring. Simple, yet glowing with a quiet elegance that mirrored his heart. Princess, he began, voice thick with emotion, you've always been my anchor. The one who stood by me when I had nothing but silence and shadows. You gave me hope when I had lost the will to keep fighting. He took a breath, steadying himself. I see you not just as a friend, but as my family. My heart, will you marry me? Princess gasped, her hand flying to her chest. Her eyes shimmered with tears. James, my guy, wait, are you serious? This is overwhelming. James smiled gently. You're everything to me. From helping me find Samuel to being the one person I could always count on. I don't want to imagine life without you. Then, before she could respond, James slowly rose to his feet. He leaned on a cane, his legs steady but hesitant. Princess froze, stunned. I've been walking for months, he confessed. Samuel helped me with my recovery. I kept it from Vanessa to test her love. But you never changed. You never asked for anything. You just cared. You stayed. Princess's lips trembled. Her knees gave slightly and she fell to a crouch, her hands covering her face as tears poured down. Then she looked up, laughing through her sobs. Yes, James, I'll marry you. James dropped to one knee, still shaky, but determined, and slid the ring onto her finger. The garden, once silent, now bloomed with a new kind of magic. In the mansion's garden, beneath a velvet sky studded with stars, James and Princess stood hand in hand. Lanterns flickered around them, casting golden light on the path that had led them here, from heartbreak to healing, from friendship to forever. Princess, radiant in a white, form-fitting maxi dress that hugged her like destiny itself, glowed with a joy too deep for words. James, no longer the broken man he once was, stood tall, his eyes burning with love and quiet triumph. Their love, once tested by betrayal, pain, and silence, now blazed like a lighthouse in the dark, guiding them toward a future only they could write. As soft music floated through the garden and petals drifted on the night breeze, they danced slowly, as if time itself had paused to honor them. Princess leaned in, her voice a tender promise in the dark. I promise to love you right, for the rest of my life. James drew her closer, his hand pressed gently to her back. And I promise, he whispered, that no storm, no shadow, no past will ever stand between us. Together we'll conquer the world. Above them the stars burned brighter, as if the heavens were celebrating too. What lessons did you take from their story? Was it James's fight to rise above betrayal? Princess's commitment and support? Or Samuel's quiet courage that changed everything? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to join our community, where stories like this inspire hope and healing. And in the comments below, we want to hear from you. Who was the real hero in this story? James, Princess, Samuel? What touched your heart the most? Share your thoughts, your feelings, and how this story moved you. Because every story has a hero, and sometimes it's the ones you least expect. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next chapter of Hope.